You would think that I'd be used to speaking in front of a ton of people, because I'm a talker, if you know me. However, this is a little nerve-wracking. So, roller coaster to relief, loving the body you're in at all stages. So, my disclosures would be I'm a brand ambassador for my 2 different compression companies, Lipoelastic for my lipedema. They have been amazing, not just having a product for someone that when I started had 72-inch hips. I wasn't finding anything off the shelf. That was not going to happen. And there was not a moment where I was talking to them that I felt they were like, oh, I don't want to make this size garment. It was like, what do you need? How do you want it? What's best for you? I love them. Medi compression for my lymphedema. I wear them daily. I have 2 compressions on under the suit even. And then I am an admin for the Total Lipedema Care Facebook group because I want other women that are going out for surgery in LA to find tips and know, and it be easier since I've done it 7 times. So I am Kara Cruz, or Pale Ginger Pear, across all social media. I have been a pale ginger, literally from the start. So, squeeze her. You just have to squeeze her was a phrase I heard over and over again. One of the main defining stories of my first early years was focused on my chubby thighs. Little did I know that it would start a lifetime focused on these damn thighs. My dad used to pass me around to friends, family, church members, whoever he could hand me off to, and be like, you just have to squeeze her. You have to feel these thighs. That got shortened to squeezer or squeeze, and that was a nickname that he called me up until his passing. And it was told as this loving, cute story, because who doesn't love a chubby baby? But it was such a defining moment that my body was focused on and talked about versus who I was, how funny I was. It was, look at those thighs, which has not stopped. While they were so focused on the cute chubbiness, they were missing the ankle cuffing that started early on, the inverted Y stance, and the multiple bruises. My mother used to joke around that she was afraid CYS was going to be called because I was covered in bruises constantly. And she said, all I have to do is get them to watch you walk because you will trip over anything, everything, and nothing all at once. And it was talked about as like, well, you're the pale ginger, like you're see-through. The bruises look darker because you're so see-through. Not, why is a 3-year-old constantly bruised so badly? I don't blame them. It was the 80s, and our health wasn't really talked about unless it was a peanut allergy. Like, they didn't really care. So they were working with what they knew, but I wish that somebody in my life had known to be like, this isn't quite normal. We need to kind of look into this a little bit more. I was getting the constant body talk at home. The cute, chubby baby then became the chubby toddler and the chubby elementary students. And I was always the fatter one in my groups. And it was talked about over and over again. There was stories of how, why were you wearing sweats? Because you didn't sweat in them. Family joke, still told to this day, hilarious. Anytime I wear a sweatsuit, oh, there's Kara and her no sweats. Okay, sure. Meanwhile, I'm the hottest person out of my family and I am dying and everything. But yeah, there's Kara and her no sweats. Jumping rope at 6. Was that an earthquake? Oh no, Kara's jumping rope. Who tells that to a 6-year-old? A 6-year-old that barely looked bigger than the 3-year-old in the Wonder Woman underoos. Like, I wasn't a big child looking back at photos, but I was made to believe that I was a big child. My mother was the only family member that did not focus on my body shape or my size. She bought every ridiculous outfit that I wanted, every bright neon outfit that I wanted, And looking back, there was a time period that I was like, why did you buy this? Why did you let me leave the house in this? Like, you're the adult. Like, you have a right to be like, haha, no. And she said, you would put it on, you would light up and be like, I love it, and I didn't want to dim that. And now I am grateful because I put on this suit at tour and it was like, oh yeah, this is coming home with me. Knowing full well that I work from my house and don't get dressed most days. But yay, FDRS, full-on outfit to wear. But I'm so grateful looking back now that I had that acceptance and that, like, you can wear what you want. I mean, the one outfit, I legit looked like a taxi cab. It was a bathing suit, biker short combination that was orange with black and white check down the side. Legit looked like a taxi cab. Wore that thing everywhere. As I went into high school, I did not develop like my friends. I joke that I was all hips and no tits. As you can see in the hippie child, no pun intended, but it works out, I was trying to hide my larger upper arms with that neon green shirt and the hips. I actually had ankles at that moment, though. That was a rare moment where I still had ankles. But I was trying to hide the upper arms that bothered me so much because I knew they were different. I knew I didn't look like my friends. That picture with one of my best guy friends from high school, you can already see that I'm the extreme pear shape. I was a size 22 pants as a senior in high school and an 18 top. The difference started and never stopped. Nobody can explain why. Nobody can give me an answer. Every doctor appointment was, you need to lose weight, you need to move more. I was on every fad diet in the 80s and 90s because my father was obsessed because he had a weight problem and he took it out on me because I looked like him. And his internalized, I don't like myself, became, we're gonna stop her from getting to that point. Looking back, I can say he meant well, but his approach was so wrong. And it really led to a lot of food trauma that if any of you have watched me eat this weekend, I don't. And between food trauma and celiac disease and allergies, it's a miracle that I eat at all. But, I went over and over in my head about the struggle of hips and no tits. Because as you are growing up and you are learning of what people like and what people accept, and the media in the late 80s and early 90s or mid 90s when I was in high school was the fat chick only got liked after a dare or a joke that also included a makeover. She was not accepted in the movies or liked until a guy was dared to spend time with her, and then he discovered, oh, she's actually a pretty cool person. And I was told over and over again, you just gotta let him get to know you. You just gotta give him more time. Why should I have to jump through hoops to get treated like everybody else? And it was a struggle, but if I had been told by anybody, you're getting hips because your body has lipedema, because your grandmother had lipedema, and this is how your makeup is, my self-esteem and my projection would be totally different. I mean, I'm grateful because I've been able to help many other women in this process, but I wouldn't have chose people I chose. I wouldn't have put up with positions I put up with at work. I would have kicked the redheaded attitude into overdrive in some situations and been like, no, I'm not tolerating this. I wouldn't be such a people pleaser trying to get people to stick around long enough to look past the shell to see who I am. Shortly after high school, I moved to Astoria, Queens, where I finally felt like myself. I was living with a dear friend. I was working as a nanny, and I mean, the children all loved me, so that was always acceptable and fun. But then I was working as a photographer for comedians, and my dear friend Stephen Lynch and his friend Mark Tyke were the first people that looked past who I was and got my humor, saw my talent as a photographer, and brought me into their circle. I was the only female that traveled with a group of male comedians. It started out very calmly and being very polite, and that quickly turned to, let's see how much we can make her blush, let's see how we can do this, and then it quickly turned to, oh, she's gonna make us cry, we're gonna back off. But Stephen is a musical comedian who pushes the line with his song. He is not for the faint of heart by any means. And he has a song called The Big Fat Friend. And I knew of this song before I started working with him, and I knew what it was. The song, he's trying to hit on the hot, thin chick at the bar. But she's got her fat friend. How is he gonna get around this? Well, he's gonna pass his friend off onto her. And the whole song, I just remember hearing it the first time and that gut feeling and the cringe, and then every time he would perform it, just being like, okay, this is the part of the show, I just stick behind my camera, not pay attention, and kind of just get through it. We were in one show, and I was up against the stage taking pictures, and he's mid-song, and he stops, and he looks down at me and goes, I'm sorry? And he did not play the rest of the song. And he turned out to the audience and he said, this is my photographer, this is my friend, and I can't continue this. And that was the first time that I had a friend defend me. And he didn't have to. I knew the song going into it. I knew it was his career. I knew he pushed the envelope. I mean, he's got songs about a lot of other stuff, so I knew what I was getting into. But the fact that after months of working with me, he was like, this isn't right, she deserves better, was like, I'm bawling at a comedy show in front of college students that look a mess. And he came up to me after the show and he was like, I'm sorry, why did you never tell me to knock it the f off earlier? And I was like, I didn't have a position, that wasn't my right. It was your choice to make, and I'm glad you did, but it wasn't my position. And he was truly the first person that let me be me and supported me as me. He was there through some of the toughest times of my life. But while I was also in New York, I met what I thought was my happily ever after. And I vividly remember picking out this dress for the wedding. I didn't want a dress. I wanted jeans, a cute little white shirt, and white flip-flops that said just married. And we were going to Vegas. I was like, I don't need a dress. I didn't wear dresses back then. That surprisingly has changed. But I wanted just jeans and a cute shirt. He wanted a tux, and I joked, I will bury you in a tux. We're going casual for the wedding. And he won out, thanks to my mother. And I picked this green dress because we got married on St. Patrick's Day. And I had my mother sew the mesh sleeves on it because I did not want to show my arms. And I picked that because the mesh also went longer and hid the ankles fairly well. I had bought other shoes to wear. The Vegas heat had my feet and ankles swollen that I could not wear them, and I ended up wearing flip-flops to my wedding, which ended up being fitting because that's kind of what I lived in back then. But I remember going into my wedding not feeling like myself, not feeling like I could dress how I wanted, not feeling comfortable, and not feeling fully supported. After the whirlwind romance and whirlwind wedding, 9 months after we were married, we got pregnant, and then 9 months we had the boy. My OBGYN at the time, I love him, and he ended up being a very great doctor. I was probably 100 pounds heavier than when I even started my surgeries. He claimed me from the moment I walked in. They typically switched you between two doctors, whoever had the appointment at the time. He said, I'm claiming you. I don't want us to miss anything because of your size. Slightly offended, but I understood, went along with it. I was having trouble towards the end where he wasn't dropping enough. So they said, can we please schedule a C-section because I don't want to have to rush for an emergency one with your size. I would rather us be prepared so it's safer for you and the boy. I agreed. They scheduled it when both of the OBGYNs could be available because he wanted an extra set of hands. As I was preparing for all of this, I lost my mother to ovarian cancer. So my biggest support and my person was gone, and she passed away at the hospital that I had him at. So to walk back in for my scheduled C-section, knowing that the last time I was there was to say goodbye to her, was the hardest thing that I've probably ever had to do. And I'm sitting there for the epidural because I insisted, I want to be awake for this. I want to hear his first cry. I want that experience. And they couldn't get it in at first. They're like, you're not arching far enough. And I said, there's a belly and there's thighs. I'm arching as far as I can go. The nurse, thinking that she was doing well, said, is your mom waiting out in the waiting room for you? And I lost it. And Dr. Dumpy comes flying around the table, and he's like, her mother just passed away. And he's like, do you trust me? And I was like, well, you're about to do a C-section, so I'd hope so. And he grabs my arms, and he pulls me, so I'm hanging off the table thing that I'm sitting on, so that my back was arched enough for them to do the epidural, because he knew that's what I wanted. And I'm grateful that he took the risk to do that so I could get the results that I wanted. C-section, he said, was the easiest one that he had the whole 9 months. He comes into my room the day after. I'm getting myself back into the bed, push my whole weight off the foot of the bed and get myself in position, and he goes, what are you doing? And I said, nobody's here to help me. I have to do it myself. And I was like, can I go home? And he said, I would normally say no, but you just pushed your whole body weight. He's like, go, get out. And he was like, I owe you an apology. He's like, I judged you from the second you walked in. He was like, you were the easiest patient. You've been the best self-advocate and self-care. He was like, go be with your baby. Go home. Get out of this bad mental place for you. Go. And I am forever grateful for that. As my world continued to crumble with the marriage falling apart, the self-mom guilt kicked in. Was I being selfish for spending money on compression and vibration plates and dry brushing and surgery and all of that stuff? And I had to keep telling myself over and over, you have to put your mask on first. That if I couldn't be mobile and be the mom that he deserved, especially since he now didn't really have a dad around and didn't have a grandma around, he needed me more than ever, that I had every right to be selfish, because in the long run, that meant that I got to be the grandmother that could call and say, have my babies ready, I'm coming to get them. And I wasn't the grandma that took up 2/3 of the couch that you didn't trust to stand up to hold them, because she was going to fall with them. I did not want to be that. I wanted him to have the grandmother experience with his kids that he should have had with my mom, that he didn't get to have. So anytime somebody asks me, how can you justify spending all that money on surgery? It's because I went years with him, because I lost my mom at 26. I don't want to do that to him. It was a 3-year process where I told him no at like just about every question he asked. Can we get Burger King? No. Can I have Fortnite money? No. And he'd be like, ugh. And I'm like, you want $10 for V-Bucks, or do you want me to like help you down the road? I'm fine, you know. Now he's just mad that I didn't bring him along for travel. So this sentence changed my life and pissed me off at the same time. It was a moment where I was at my physical therapist's office to get rewrapped for my lymphedema new compression, and I was complaining to her about being told to lose weight and not being able to, and she's like, oh, you have lymphedema, you won't lose weight. What? She was like, yeah, it's a special fat that doesn't typically react to diet or exercise, so like anything you're trying to do is not going to do anything. Not even looking up from her paperwork. I almost fell off the treadmill. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah, it was this moment of I knew I wasn't fucking crazy, and why has nobody told me this in 20-some years? I started to share my story on social media due to an ex at the time. He was like, do Instagram, you'll have a ton of followers. I thought he was crazy. I joke around, this is the one time he was right. I started to share my story, and I found my people and my community and my support, and I found the person that changed my life more than I could ever fully express. I walked into a consult with Dr. Jamie Schwartz out in LA, October 2019. I was talking to him. I had left my knee-high compression on because I didn't think I had it up my lower legs. I was foolish. And he was sitting on that little doctor stool that they all sit on, and he asked me to take off my compression stocking, and he drops to his knees on the floor, grabs my ankle cuffing, turns to the nurse in the room and says, just starts rattling off a game plan. Turns back to me, he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I have to address this. We cannot leave this. I cannot let you go with this ankle cuffing. And I started tearing up, and I was like, I've never had anybody look at it and want to fix it. They've all said, yep, you're stuck with it. He was the first person that was like, we have to fix this. I continued to share my story on social media, and I shared my before and after for my saddlebag surgery. Those are the same shorts. I was all excited because it meant I could start to fit in chairs. Had not so much pain. And the social media turned. I started getting all of these comments. You're ruining your body. Stop doing it. You're getting rid of the best parts of you. Only women are happy. All the men are sad. Well, I don't do it for you. I don't do it for you. I, being the can't keep my mouth shut redhead, did this post where I took some of the comments and added it because my thought, you have the nerve to comment publicly, I can talk back about you publicly. I can call you out on this. And while those comments didn't truly bother me, because at that point I was like, whatever, somebody just starting out on this journey, that could destroy them. That could stop them from continuing and getting relief. And that's so toxic. The one guy, Hanky, to be or whatever, apologized and still tries to talk to me, but we have shut that down. But he apologized and told me I could actually post it publicly, that he didn't realize that it was so painful and that it wasn't a thing. And he's now a nurse, so he now knows for the community. I made it happen. Somehow, in 3 years, I managed to make 7 surgeries happen. And I could not have done it without these 2 people and the rest of the total lymphedema staff. But these 2, Jerry, the surgery tech for Dr. Jamie, has been on all of my surgeries. She was on leave for the one and still stopped by the office to see how I was doing. I woke up groggy out of surgery and asked if I could touch her baby bump. That's all I remember really waking up. But she stopped by because she was like, I have to be there for all of your surgeries. I have to see how you're doing. She and I just bonded over Muppets and sarcasm, and she got that my sarcasm was a self-defense mechanism, and that I wasn't trying to be a bitch, and that I was just trying to be in the mindset that I could go into surgery and not be so out of my mind scared that I was choosing a somewhat elective, but not really, it's medically necessary, but you're told it's elective over and over, being a single mom, and not knowing if because of my size and being a redhead who needs more anesthesia, if I was going to wake up to go home to him. Every surgery was am I going to see him again? Is it worth it? And I knew it was, and I'm so glad that I powered through, because now we have a life where he's like, can we just sit down today? He was like, I think I might have liked you better when you didn't want to do things. But I'm now the house where all the teens hang out. I am now Mama Cruz to 4 extra kids all the time, and we do things. And I am so grateful that I have a life where I can walk and I smile. Those are legit smiles. And if you had followed me from the beginning, it was full-on resting bitch face, because I was masking or trying to mask the pain so much. And I thought I was doing a good job. That clearly wasn't the case. But we need people like this team that care. We need the other surgeons that have taken their time to come this weekend and show that they care and help us and work on all stages. We don't need just the help for the earlier stages. We need to get the word out there so we don't necessarily have to worry about later stages in the future. But we need people like this team that care. We need people like the community that have backed me and follow and look, my roundtable people that share awareness and understand and let me pop in on Wednesday right after surgery where I'm looking rough and I've just traveled, because I knew I wanted to talk and still share. This journey is a roller coaster that I would ride over and again, as the rush of relief I have felt when the ride stopped is so worth it. That smile is the most genuine smile. And it's just because I'm not in pain anymore. And that, to me, makes all of it worthwhile. I would do all of the surgeries over again. Even knowing a wound vac was part of my journey, I would do it 100% again.